Okay, so bear with me on this one, but are we really in a situation where we have to pick sides? And I know you're probably thinking, heck yeah, I know which side I'm on, but I'm not talking about Republican or Democrat. I'm talking about being on the side of the government or on the side of the people. If given those two options, which would you choose? I believe that this is the reality of our politics and our society today. And I'm not a Ron Swanson libertarian who believes that the government should consist of only one man in a room that decides who we get to nuke. But the government is an essential part of our nation. It's essential for a country our size, but it must be limited in scope. And currently, that is not the case. Therefore, it's time to roll it back and restore power and authority to the people. And if you're one of those folks on the left who's going to automatically call me a Nazi because I'm a conservative, which has happened recently on X, by the way, then you need to explain to me why this is a bad thing. And I get it. Some people say, I vote my morals. And because Donald Trump made some rash comments years ago and because he cheated on his wife, he is no longer deserving of my vote. Instead, you're going to cast your vote for a woman who has received 0 votes from the people and who catapulted her political career by breaking up the home of the Brown family in California when she slept with Willie Brown so that she could get a no-show job in California governance. I get it. There's bad options all around. Others say that I vote for the best candidate, and I totally understand. But before you make your decision, you have to understand who is giving you the data that is driving that decision. Are you watching MSNBC, ABC, CBS, or any of the other mainstream media outlets? Remember, these are the people that told you that Donald Trump was a puppet of Russia, which was proven to be false. They told you that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, proven to be false. They told you that Joe Biden was a unifier and a peacemaker, yet war and social division have been rampant ever since he took office. He said that he was the guy to fix our economy that was destroyed by Trump and a pandemic, which most people seem to forget. Meanwhile, inflation has run rampant and Americans are experiencing the heaviest financial burdens in generations with no signs of this slowing down. There are only a few, these are only a few of literally hundreds of examples where the mainstream media have shaped a narrative around one person and that person threatens their stranglehold on information. I think down deep, everyone wants to be against the machine. You know, that American gene that causes us to distrust massively powerful government institutions. It's like a dormant seed in all of us. And as opposed to suppressing it, we have to cultivate it, nurture it, and let it blossom. Peace and prosperity doesn't come from taking a knee and letting the government do its thing unchecked by the people. It comes from relentless social and political pressure to make sure the government, more importantly, the people that we elected to represent us in that government, do not exceed the parameters set forth by our Constitution. None of the people in Washington, D.C., even the ones that we love, are automatically worthy of our praise or our vote. That is something that is earned and it is not granted based on political party. There will always be tough calls that we're going to have to make, like voting for a homewrecker or a former philanderer real estate mogul. But we can distill all of this down to the most basic of perspectives. You know that the media empires who control the airwaves are partisan institutions with political aims. That is undeniable. Look at the candidate that they are willing to lie about. Who are they attacking? Who are they propping up? Who is best poised to discredit them? That should be part of your decision-making process. Look at what they do and say, then consider the opposite as a viable option. Weigh all the facts. And keep in mind, those news outlets are not where you will find the facts. You will only find the filtered and then adulterated version of the facts that will pollute your mind with partisan nonsense. I'm sorry to tell you that we are officially in a post-fact world. It is on us to do the legwork to inform ourselves appropriately. Otherwise, we will be complicit in the downfall of the greatest republic in human history. I'm Jared, and this is Continue Freedom. And welcome back to Continue Freedom. If this is your first time here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below. We're on X, Locals, Rumble, and YouTube. And the comments are very important, but I also want you to share this because that gets us outside of, in particular with YouTube, gets us outside of the YouTube algorithm, which is in full force right now because it's election season. Brutal, absolutely brutal right now on YouTube. So I also want to say, go to continuefreedom.com and sign up for my mailing list. I don't have my mug here, but I showed it in the few videos ago. We've got merch coming. We've got t-shirts. We've got hats. We've got maybe hats. I'm working on the hat part. We're going to have mugs. We're going to have all kinds of stuff. So go to continuefreedom.com, sign up for my mailing list, and you'll be the first ones to be notified whenever that stuff, that wonderful, wonderful apparel comes available. Now, you might be asking yourself, what in the world spawned that intro? Well, I will tell you what it was. This is something I've seen many, many times, and I'm sure you have too, but I want to bring it up. It's a meme that has made its way around the internet, and different versions of this exist. Elon Musk just recently posted it, and it said, "You watched the Hunger Games and sided with the Resistance. You watched Star Wars and sided with the Resistance. You watched The Matrix and you sided with the Resistance. You watched Divergent and sided with the Resistance. You watched V for Vendetta and you sided with the Resistance. When it's fiction, you understand, yet you refuse to see it when it's the reality you're living in." Wild. And that is so, so true. You know, people like myself, I sit and consume this content on a day-to-day basis. Every day, every waking hour, I'm consuming this content, and it can be incredibly unhealthy. But I understand the power and authority the federal government has. I understand that the information I'm getting from MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NPR, whichever outlet is going to be heavily skewed. It's going to be the party line, generally for the Democrat Party. If it's Fox News, it's going to be for the Republican Party. But we have this entire network of alternative media outlets, myself included. That's the train that I'm getting on here, is this alternative media solution so people can receive actual information and not get this filtered, then adulterated version of the truth. And you have to understand, this is a resistance. This is a resistance to a massive government machine that doesn't just control our economy, doesn't want to regulate and legislate our lives, but it wants to control the information that we receive. And we know, like I say, like this meme says, memes can be very informative sometimes. We always see it when we're watching it in a dramatic film of some sort. Oh yeah, of course, you fight the machine. And yet people vote for the machine every single year, day after day, day after day. And it takes us waking up to what's going on around us and cultivating that seed of skepticism that I was talking about in the intro, so that we lose some of that trust we have in the federal government. We treat it skeptically. That's how the founding fathers looked at it, and that's how we're supposed to look at it. So we're now choosing sides. Are we with the deceptive, nefarious federal government, or are we on the side of the people and want to push forward all of our candidates, the people that are outside of that system, who are willing to go into it but aren't tapped into it through the lobbyist class and through the special interests? Because these folks will lie to you. They will lie to you, and I'm going to give you a prime example. Kamala Harris. So they're faking crowds. These are all AI-generated images. You've probably seen a lot of this out here on the internet. They're saying, these are the crowds at Kamala's rallies. They're all AI, all AI. Some of it is false. People are saying it's AI when it's not. Other times, it is most definitely AI. Look, the fingers are pointing at the hand, first off. So look at that hand. This is what AI never gets right. AI never gets the hands right. You've got to look at that. There's little anomalies. So they essentially took a partially filled auditorium, used AI to fill it in, then sent the photos out to la-di-da-di everybody, thinking that she was packed wall to wall when she was not. In this instance, you're going to look at these three people here. There's three women here lined up, essentially sitting on each other's laps. That is quite clearly AI generated. It's not just quite clearly, it is obviously AI generated. You've got this guy here with his long, abnormally long neck, an AI anomaly. You've got distortions in people's faces. So I know these aren't the greatest resolution. I apologize for that, but there's distortions in people's faces. It is insanely obvious that these are AI generated photos used to fill in seats that were empty at Kamala Harris's rally, all in an effort to mislead you, to make you think that she has these massive crowds of people coming out to see Kamala Harris, the lady who couldn't get any votes, who got less than 1%. I think at her best, she was polling at 3%, but has never received a vote. for the presidency. When she was running, she had no chance. Nobody liked her. She was completely unrelatable. And yet the media pushed these images out. The Democrat Party pushed these images out over and over and over and over again. We have to wake up. We have to understand they do not have our best interest at heart, that they are simply trying to mislead us for political gain. I don't know how much more obvious you can make it. And this is the post-fact world I was talking about. You know, we're going to see videos of Donald Trump with deepfake technology where he says things he did not say in places that he was never located. We're going to hear the same thing about Kamala Harris. We're going to hear the same thing about Joe Biden. We're going to hear all this conflicting information meant to basically create paranoia, to make people even, more distrustful of what they hear, to herd them into the mainstream media where they will say, we are the arbiters of truth and fact, and all pertinent information flows through us. You can't trust anything else out there. It's all nefarious. Well, no, we are grown men and women, and we can make our own decisions, and we will make our own decisions, and we are not going to sit by and wait for the government to tell us what is true or false, because we saw that during COVID, that they have zero problem lying to us. So we're just going to make our own decisions. How about that? How about we be big boys and big girls? I know that you can do it. I can do it. There's a lot of folks out there who can't. Pray for their souls. But we're in a competitive marketplace right now when it comes to information. And there are places where information flow is trying to be stifled. And in this instance, it's Rumble and X. These are, both platforms that are really going into some fistfights right now. And Chris Pavlovsky, he reveals details of the lawsuit against global advertising group boycotting X, Rumble, for harmful content. So what the World Federation of Advertisers has done is they created a monopoly to basically tell all these advertisers how they should spend money on certain speech. So if an advertising agency says, we don't want to advertise on your platform, they are perfectly welcome to do that. But what they've done is they've created the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, GARM. And this has opened its membership to independent brand safety solution providers, in addition to advertisers, media agencies, media platforms, and industry associations. This is a significant expansion of the cross-industry initiative, which aims to eliminate ad support for harmful content on digital media platforms, the group said. So that's their long, drawn-out, 10-cent word version of what they do. GARM has previously partnered with a number of ad tech companies and solutions providers on the organization's brand safety floor and suitability framework. God, where do these people come up with these ridiculous names? It's like they just sit around and throw a bunch of Scrabble tiles on the ground and say, ooh, that looks like a pretty good acronym. Let's figure out how we can make that fit. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But after several months of collaboration and expansion of GARM's work, the GARM Steer team recognizes the need for a more structured way of working to help further drive standards and solutions into practice. Ugh, this is nauseating. So basically what this has done, all this acronym soup, this alphabet soup, is it has created a monopoly of advertisers, and they are restricting access to free speech, which would be X, and free speech / more right-wing platforms, meaning Rumble, and they are trying to restrict essentially advertising revenue to these entities because they don't meet their political or don't conform with their political ideology. That's what this whole lawsuit is about. So it's not just about the fact that they want to restrict it on platforms for political purposes. It's that they have a monopoly on this. So they're pushing all of their advertisers to left-leaning platforms like Google and Facebook and those entities, and they are withholding it from X, which is a free speech platform, and Rumble, which is a free speech and more conservative platform. So this is a huge problem. And monopolies, you can listen to a lot of folks on how I love to listen to Milton Friedman about how monopolies are to be dealt with. I don't believe that breaking up companies is always the right solution, because what it takes, in a purely free market system, a monopoly will eventually make its way out of the marketplace. And that could be through technological innovation. That could be through, competitors like Rumble. If you think about YouTube, YouTube is in a very monopolistic situation. Google has the number one and number two search engines in the world, from Google being number one and YouTube being number two. So they have a monopoly on information. But here comes Rumble, lifting itself up, becoming a competitor in that space. But what normally happens is when a competitor comes up, Google buys them out, or YouTube, they buy them out. They buy out their competition. Facebook does the same thing. So as terrible of a platform as like Facebook is, there are other people who came up with better platforms, but it threatens the power structure and where Facebook sits in the marketplace, so that it's cheaper for them to pay hundreds of millions of dollars, buy it up, and maintain their monopoly on the social platforms, and maintain their power and control over the information. But it takes people who have some intestinal fortitude to say, I'm not selling out. Nope. I believe in free speech. And so, yeah, you can offer me 500 million, you can offer me $1 billion. I'm not going to take it. And then they compete in a free market environment. The problem with our environment is that it's not actually free market. We have so much government involvement in the social media space and the tech sector that it's not a true free market. And then you've got political persuasions that are, in advertisers, which drive the revenue that is needed to keep these companies solvent. All of this has to get settled in the courts. And so kudos to to Rumble, and kudos to X for jumping on board this and fighting it in the court system. It's fantastic. I absolutely love seeing it. Oh boy. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about, I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit to something a bit different. We're going to talk about the election, because where all this information, Rumble is the place to be. If you want to listen to this podcast, if you want to listen to this show, go to Rumble. You can watch it on YouTube. My YouTube viewership has been throttled to a ridiculous level here recently. And it's because it's an election year. It's not on Rumble. So go ahead, hit me up on Rumble and let's follow it, because this is an election year. And we're going to have some dicey situations where we're going to want access to quick and accurate information. But this is the type of situation that we're going to be in. Pennsylvania announces election results may not be available on election night. This is predictive programming. This is getting the voters ready, softening the blow, saying, hey, we told you back in August, that you probably weren't going to have the results you wanted right on election night. Yeah, it's kind of crazy here. So the Pennsylvania Department of State has announced that the results of the state's upcoming election will not be known on election night. I should ask ChatGPT, what's the population? In fact, I'm going to ask you right now. What is the population of Pennsylvania? Okay, 12 million people. They were able to do this in South American countries with tens of millions of people overnight with paper ballots. And yet Pennsylvania says, yeah, we might not know, You know what I'm saying? Like we saw in 2020, we're going to have those Donald Trump leading. You know what? We're going to have to, everybody's tired. It's exhausted. I know it is the election for the most powerful nation in the world, the supreme power on the globe, with all the technology and all the money. And we're going to have, these people are exhausted. They can't be bothered to work through the night. They can't be bothered to count these ballots. So let's just shut it down. And then what are we going to see? Wake up in the morning, Kamala Harris leading in Pennsylvania. I'm calling it now. We saw it in 2020. Hardly anything has been changed in Pennsylvania as far as I know. If there's something else out there that I'm missing, let me know. But the announcement echoes the situation from the 2020 election, where initial results appeared to favor Donald Trump as polls closed. However, as mail-in ballots were counted in the following days, Joe Biden was declared the winner in Pennsylvania. The prolonged counting process has frustrated some critics who argue that state election results should be finalized and made public on or immediately following November 5th. Absolutely, they should. The more time we give them, the more opportunity there is for fraud, for voter fraud. And don't tell me, come on, y'all, don't tell me that the folks on the left that are watching, don't tell me you don't think there was not rampant voter fraud. We can see what happened down in Georgia. This has been, the state house has had testimony after testimony of people saying Hundreds of thousands of votes were illegally cast down in Georgia. So don't give me that. It's the same it happened in Arizona, it happened in Georgia, it happened all over the country, and people are still in denial. Why? People like the Dan Crenshaws of the world who say, and the Ben Shapiros of the world saying, there hasn't been sufficient, I haven't seen sufficient evidence. You can sit here and watch all the testimony all day long, people saying hundreds of thousands of votes were cast improperly, illegally. All these anomalies, and they say, no, can't do that. Why? Because they don't want to deal with the unrest that comes from people knowing that their election was fraudulent, that their vote didn't actually count, that a bunch of nefarious individuals in certain states stole an election. And I believe they did. 100%, and I have zero doubt about it. Now, who's going to be is it going to, well, let's talk about between now and the election. We're looking at Kamala Harris, and I've given my opinion on Kamala Harris. The lady has received zero votes. They used the superdelegate system. They installed someone, and now everybody is blindly voting for her simply because of her genitals and her melanin. It's the only reason. People had an option for her in the past, and they said, nope, we don't want her. We don't like her. She's fake. She's not one of us. She's not. Anyway, people had their own opinions, and I understand why. But here's the thing. Las Vegas police released audio of Biden's medical emergency. You might have heard about this, but there was a medical emergency that preceded him quitting the campaign, and this was when he was in Vegas. And so they forced him. This is let me read you a little bit of this. Oops, I didn't have that article pulled up. Come on, here we go. So audio recordings from the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, LVMPD, detail assigned to President Joe Biden during his Nevada visit on July 17th have been released, shedding lights on the president's abrupt change of plans due to a health issue. With one of the recordings apparently indicating an emergency response. The audios have been released after a report claimed that Biden had suffered a, quote, medical emergency while in Nevada. The recordings were made public on Friday afternoon by the Oversight Project after a Freedom of Information Act request. So a FOIA request got answered that quickly. Pretty impressive. I mean, come on. We know that that bureaucratic processes like a FOIA request take exceedingly long to get approved. Okay. Somehow somebody was able to get this very quickly, and they were able to get all the information saying he had a medical emergency. This is posturing. This is prepping the battlefield for Joe Biden to not be the president when the election comes around. In my opinion. That is in my opinion. Biden's medical emergency. See, the guy's out of it. He's completely out of it. Watched him walk into that plane. He didn't know the difference between that one and Air Force One. And he's sitting here pointing around, walking along the runway, and he turns and just walks into this random airplane that had the door down, disappears while everybody is mysteriously staring like, why did he walk into that airplane? Why did Joe Biden go? Why did the president go into that plane? Nobody knows, and he doesn't know either. But they are going to I believe they're going to force him to drop out. And Kamala Harris is, yes, she's the one who's running for president in the next election. But what behooves her, what serves her best? It serves her best to be in the actual office of president of the United States at some point in the next few weeks, maybe month, so they can say that she is the incumbent. She's the serving president of the United States, and that generally gives a bit of, my understanding anyway, is from what I've read, is that gives a bit of a bump to people when they are going into the election. So every little edge that they can give her, Joe Biden at some point, I believe, is going to drop out between now and November. We don't be complacent, right? And folks think that this is going to be some sort of a cakewalk for Donald Trump because Kamala Harris is actually unliked. They're saying, oh, I don't believe the polls. The polling is wrong. I have been trusting the polls for the most part because they aligned pretty closely with what was going on in the primaries. But this is a different season now. The game is completely changed. Joe Biden is not the guy that we are up against. Joe Biden, we win in a landslide. Donald Trump wins in a landslide. But when you talk about Kamala Harris, now you've got a DEI hire. You've got a DEI candidate that a lot of folks are going to they're going to feel some moral obligation because of her genitals and her melanin to vote for her, even though she is entirely unqualified to hold the office of president of the United States. She never should have been the number 2. But she is. Here we go. One breath away. What's nuts is that we're watching a coup and we're watching political subversion, and it's right in front of our eyes, and people don't care. That's what really frustrates me about this. We're seeing this happen in real time. This is what happens in banana republics and happens in these corrupt third world countries, and yet it's happening in America. And people will go to the ballot box and say, I don't care if I lose my 401k. I don't care. It's acceptable. As long as I meet those woke standards that have been passed down to me by my superiors in the Democrat Party, I will vote for Kamala Harris because I think it's time. Not because she's qualified, but because genitals and melanin are more important than policies and capabilities. And the kids, these young folks, they don't have 401ks, so they're not even thinking about that. They should, but they don't have 401ks. They're not thinking about retirement. They're voting for this stuff because they're fresh out of college. And they say, you know what? That's the most important thing. Melanin and genitals, the most important thing that one can vote for. I I toss this around, and again, this is just a theoretical thought exercise. But I have thought, what about property rights to vote again? I mean, if you're a 20-year-old, think about a 20-year-old with a job, a family, and a small house. They have far more to lose than a 25-year-old living in mommy and daddy's basement, not working. Mommy still does their laundry, and there are a lot of those out there, by the way. They have $200,000 in student loan debt that they're never going to pay off. Who should have who stands to lose or gain more from the way that they vote? That 20-year-old who is working for a highway department or is a welder or is a mechanic or is out there actually doing hard work, or a gender studies professor with gender studies student, graduate with $200K in debt living with their parents. And they're obviously going to vote for Kamala Harris, right? I don't know. We are living in wild times, but just understand that there are young students, those same young students, that literally want to destroy Western civilization. They have nothing to lose. They think that the mommy and daddy's money grew on trees. They don't know how they got it. They think that they're evil white people for even having money. Columbia University students that joined together last year to protest Israel and advocate for the terrorists that massacred 1,200 Israelis on October 7th, kidnapping over 200, have announced that they are actually fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. These are the people right here, the ones to my left. My screen's actually over here, but the people to my left here. These are the ones that I don't think are capable, qualified to cast a vote. These are irrational, mentally damaged people. That's horrifying. We are Westerners fighting for the total, this is what they say. We are Westerners fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization, the American student studying in an Ivy League school in the city of New York State. We stand in full solidarity with every movement for liberation in the global South. Our intifada is an internationalist one. We are fighting for nothing less than the liberation of all people. We reject every genocidal, eugenicist regime, although I bet they would vote for the Democrat Party, which is big-time lovers of Margaret Sanger, who was a eugenicist and the founder of Planned Parenthood. But our intifada is an internationalist one. We are fighting for nothing less than the liberation of all people. We reject every genocidal, eugenicist regime that seeks to undermine the personhood of the colonized. Oh boy. Oh boy. As they wrote, as the fascism ingrained in the American consciousness becomes ever more explicit and irrefutable, we seek community and instruction from militants in the global South who have been on the front lines in the fight against tyranny and domination which undergird the imperialist world order. Blah, 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 verbal diarrhea from some silly, silly children. Wow. I question it, folks. Do these people, honestly, Do they need the right to vote? They have nothing to lose. Although, we got the draft. So maybe their intifada, if they destabilize America enough and we end up in World War III, maybe they'll change their tune. Maybe that'll be I've been to war. Well, I've been to combat. I've never been to war. War was World War II. That was and I would say Vietnam. But man, it's dicey time, folks. We are quite literally at the point where we are choosing between the government and the people. That's the decision that I believe is on the ballot right now. I firmly believe it. Well, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below. We're on X Locals, Rumble, and YouTube. And I'm going to shout it out now, and I'm probably going to cut this and send it to the front. There is a guy that I know with the Braver Than the Rest podcast, and he has something called the Bristol Leather Company. And it's in Bristol, Tennessee. Let me see if I can do I don't know. Yeah, here's my close-up. Let's look at that one. This guy makes wallets. He makes coasters. He makes all kinds of amazing leather goods. Go check him out. BristolLeatherCo.com. This isn't sponsored, by the way. He's a guy, like I say, that I do a podcast with. This one is absolutely off the chain. Go buy this guy's stuff. That's the Trump mugshot.'s got We the People. He's got American flags. He's just an absolutely great dude. He's a small business, and he's out here making this awesome leather stuff. Go check him out. Again, free plug for him because he's just a nice guy. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below, share this video, and go to continuefreedom.com and sign up for my mailing list. I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.